Arizona Wildlife Views, brought to you by the sale of hunting and fishing licenses and the Heritage Fund, lottery dollars working for wildlife. Some projects made possible by the Sportfish and Wildlife Restoration Fund.
Let's go.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Wildlife Views. I'm your host, Jim Harkin. On our show tonight, we're going to go down south and find a home for some of our watery friends. Then we're going to learn about PM10 and what that might mean for your next outdoor experience. Next, we head up north and we go to one of those little Edens known as Tavassi Marsh. But first, you are never going to believe what they did to me out here at Lake Pleasant.
Okay, I stopped you today, sir, because I saw that you were drinking a beer. How much alcohol have you had to drink today?
What the hell are you stopping me for? You guys stop me every week. You guys are always picking on me. Every week I come out here, you guys start messing with me. What the heck?
Oh, he shot me. He shot me, Ken. What was that all about?
Well, if this was a real life scenario, you'd be dead right now, and I'd be filling out a lot of paperwork. And as you discovered the hard way, working on boats is a very dynamic endeavor. There's a lot of things that are going on in the boat at all times, and kind of particularly what went wrong there is you diverted your attention from the guy you should have been watching and focused on the guy I was dealing with, who started to become a little hostile towards me. As soon as you did that, the other bad guy, the role player, took the opportunity and retrieved a firearm and shot you. A lot of compartments on a boat, a lot of places where people put their hands, usually a lot of equipment in boats where people can hide things, guns, knives, that sort of thing.
That's got to be tough to learn that as an officer.
Well, the purpose of our scenarios to actually have somebody draw a fake firearm and point it at a trainee, it's kind of a wake-up call for them, because it's unexpected. They didn't realize it was coming. They may have thought in their mind that they had things under control, but they found out really quick that they didn't have things under control.
And it sure does move fast. It's like a snap of the fingers. I was amazed when Ryan pulled on me that fast.
That's why we keep control of people's hands all the time, watch what they're doing, watch what they're grabbing for, watch what compartments they're going into, you know, and just keeping an eye on their hands. If somebody starts making furtive movements with their hands, we will let them know that we do not want them to do that.
Does this stuff really happen in real life? Do you really get guns pulled on you?
We do. My own personal experience, I was stationed in Lake Havasu for a time, and I had some gunplay with some guys on a boat. A guy had a shotgun that he reached underneath and he grabbed it, and we handled him accordingly. Fortunately, there were no shots fired on that situation, and everything ended safely. But it does happen. People do bring weapons out here, knives, firearms, pistols. That particular instance that I was involved with happened to be a shotgun. And people do bring that stuff out here with them.
There's a lot of things to think about while you're out there on the boat. Talk about some of the training that you officers go through to do stops like we did.
We have a 2-week course that the Arizona Game and Fish Department puts on. The first week is primarily in classroom, and then we take what we learned in the classroom for the second week and bring it out here to the lake. It's very scenario driven.
Hi there. How is everybody today?
We start slow, start our students slow, and we build on that. We start with some simple boating contacts, just whether there's a violation or not.
I need to see the registration for the vessel. I need to see the Type 4 throwable.
Typically just a misdemeanor, and throughout the week we'll escalate into full felony stops where there's some gunplay involved.
Is that live fire training, or how does that work?
We do a section of live fire on the boat. Safety's paramount, but we'll pick a cove somewhere and we'll set some targets up on shore, and we'll have the students maneuver the boat in and do some live fire rounds.
And engaging the target, that's got to be kind of tough with those waves. I mean, do people hit the target on the first shot?
It is, and we do this purposefully to show the students their limitations on their firearms skills, because yeah, it is dynamic. The boat's rocking, they're moving, and we usually score a couple of hits, but there's a lot of misses too. And it's to show to the students that, you know, it's a whole different environment than standing on a nice level surface.
Now, you as a teacher and a veteran, how do you do in that scenario? Do you still practice that one occasionally?
I do. I'll run through the scenario as well, and I missed a few too. I miss a few, I get a few. So it's tough when that boat's rocking.
Well, and I imagine with a boat, when you're out on the water, it doesn't stop on a dime. It takes some practice to get that worked out.
You're absolutely right, and a lot of times we'll put the students in different types of watercraft than they're used to or that they've been in before. We use jet-powered boats out here, prop-driven. We use jet skis out here, just to show them the performance of all these different types of boats.
Now, when you're out on the water, I imagine some of the scenarios you do have like the slalom course and that kind of stuff. Tell us a little bit about some of those.
Again, it's just basic boat handling skills. We want the students to start becoming familiar with their equipment. We'll have the agencies bring whatever boats they have, because those are the platforms that they're going to be working out of. So we want them to be intimately familiar with the specific platform that they're on. And it's just a matter of practice and time. We'll send them out with an experienced boat operator, instructor, and we'll just do a series of drills to get the students familiar with their particular boat.
I know in the scenarios, some of them that you work with, and even in real life conditions, I know that DUI plays a big role in what boating's doing right now.
On the water, it's referred to as OUI, operating under the influence, because we operate boats, we don't necessarily drive them, so it's just some terminology difference. Sure. But big problem on the lakes. People like to come out and recreate and have a good time, and alcohol is often involved. I mean, a lot. So, you know, we ask that folks designate, but it is an enforcement problem on the water. It's a public safety issue.
Left.
And what steps are we taking to kind of combat some of that?
High levels of training for our officers, a higher level of training. The boating officers nowadays are getting the same DUI interdiction type of training that street officers are getting.
I'm going to place you under arrest for OUI. Do you understand?
Our officers are all becoming HGN certified, which is horizontal gaze and nystagmus, and practicing our field sobriety tests, and we're actually targeting the activity a lot more than we may have in the past.
I know that the Game and Fish Department has really stepped up their DUI. I know there's 2 new PSAs in the information branch.
Yeah, we've recently filmed a public service announcement that was focusing on not only DUI on the road, but also OUI on the lakes, and it was kind of a combined effort.
It doesn't matter where you drive
or what you drive.
Add alcohol and results
Could be deadly. 40% of all fatalities on our roads
and on our waterways involve alcohol.
So Arizona law enforcement agencies are working together to remove impaired drivers from our roads
And impaired boat operators from our lakes. We're working together.
We're making Arizona safer for everyone.
Enjoy the experience. OUI, DUI. Expect the max.
And this is the first time in the state of Arizona that we've done that, where we've actually teamed up with the DUI officers, saying that if you drink on the lake, you're going to get busted. If you want to drive home from the lake drunk, you're going to get busted.
So you can go out and have some fun, but do it within reason.
Absolutely. We're not saying don't have fun. We're just saying do it responsibly. Have a designated driver if you wish to have some alcoholic beverages on board. Designate, do it safely, come out, have a great time, but go home safely. Make sure everybody in your party gets home safe, and innocent members of the public.
Tell us and explain to us a little bit more about the high-speed chases. Those sound pretty interesting.
Well, lakes are interesting because there's really nowhere to run on the lake, but occasionally we will have an individual run from us in their boats, and it's happened to me before. Sure. And we will train our students to safely pursue, and we'll actually go out and have some some scenario-driven, high-speed pursuits, and there's little things we want to, share with the students. Like not to follow directly behind the boat. You want to follow off to the side in case this person does something erratic or stops quickly. You don't run into them. And where you can maintain constant visual. If the guy's running from you, there's a reason why he's running from law enforcement, and it's probably not a good reason. So we want to keep as good of an eye on the people in the boat as we can, see if contraband's going overboard, whether there's any weapons involved, who's on the boat, if somebody's in distress, things of that nature. A boat can't outrun Motorola because we got radios in our boats and there's really nowhere to run on a lake, although I've had people try.
Those sound like they escalate pretty quickly.
They can. It can just be all of a sudden during a contact. A couple of pursuits I've been involved with, I was just pulling alongside somebody. I had stopped them with my lights and siren. I was pulling up alongside them, very slow speed. Next thing you know, the guy bolts.
Sure. So this training is really real life stuff.
Absolutely, and we try to make it as real as possible, and we continually modify it to make it even better and more realistic.
I still can't believe they shot me. Thank goodness it was just a training scenario. From the shores of Lake Pleasant, now we go all the way to Timbuktu. We're dropping off some top minnow at one of our safe harbor programs.
Timbuktu is a ranch in south central Arizona owned by Kathy Grosheff and Frank Backham, and it's always under the watchful eye of their Portuguese water dogs, Timbers and Buckaroo, for whom the ranch is named. Besides the normal assortment of birds and wildlife that reside here, there are now several hundred new residents, endangered Gila top minnow.
The Safe Harbor Agreement for top minnows and pupfish allows non-federal landowners and private property owners to participate in recovery actions for these endangered fishes.
Up until now, releases of endangered species were not allowed on private land, but with the Safe Harbor Agreement in place, there will be many more options for reintroducing species like the Gila top minnow and desert pupfish back into the wild.
These agreements allow additional opportunities for recovery. So this site at Timbuktu Pond will allow us to create a source population for further repatriation of native fishes, particularly top minnow and later desert pupfish, to sites back into the wild. Timbuktu Pond is going to be used to replicate the Red Rock Canyon lineage, which currently we only have 2 captive populations. So this will become the 3rd population and the first in the wild in recent memory.
The fish that are being released in Timbuktu Pond came from Arizona State University, where the breeding stock for the species is maintained. This particular collection of Gila top minnow is important because they are from the rare Red Rock lineage that only existed in captivity until this release.
Gila top minnow and Red Rock Canyon have been extirpated, and there's a few refuge populations that are occurring, and our goal with these fish is just to, again, hold them until appropriate habitat's been appropriated and it's available. And today we're going to take out one of these tanks of fish and bring them to some newly renovated habitat to stock into the wild.
Biologists like Abraham go out and collect fish in the wild and bring them back to ASU to be raised in the lab. Female top minnows do not lay eggs but give birth to live young.
When we go out, we collect wild individuals, and generally speaking, the females will carry multiple broods, and that's beneficial because you're getting genetic input from a lot of different males, and once they're in the tanks, they give birth to live young, and they reproduce in the tanks. And so part of the process of also going out every other year or so to get new individuals is to keep those individuals healthy and to have some new genetic information inside of these tanks. And so the process continues, and we just like to keep them here for as short amount of time as possible.
Once a new home for the endangered fish had been established through the Safe Harbor Agreement, biologists from the Game and Fish Department collected the fish from their home at ASU and prepared them for the move south.
It'll be a couple years before we're ready to start getting top minnow and pupfish into a number of sites. Right now we're taking slow steps, trying to make certain that we have enough fish available for future stockings. with the emphasis being on repatriation to wild sites, historic habitat.
It didn't take long for the top minnow to be transferred from their specially designed coolers and released into their new home, where they appear to be doing fine.
They looked really well. I mean, they didn't show any stress at all. They just moved off as a group at a little school.
In order for a private land pond like Timbuktu to be considered for a safe harbor agreement, it needs to meet certain criteria that will be beneficial to the fish.
Sites that are ideal for safe harbor agreement stocking should be free of various threats, be they crayfish, bullfrogs, non-native fish. They should be ideally closed systems so that the water does not flow out into the neighboring property or into nearby drainages.
It's very gratifying for the biologists who work on these projects to see the cooperation between agencies and people that allow a native species to return to the wild.
In a lot of cases, some of these populations have already been extirpated from the wild, and it's important to do it right the first time, so that, because I don't think there's many chances in some cases to reintroduce these.
Senate Bill 1552 has some far-reaching implications for outdoor enthusiasts. Next, we'll meet up with Maricopa County Air Quality to discuss PM10 and how it'll affect your trips into the field. For those of us who have lived in the valley for more than a month, it should come as no great surprise that our air can get dirty. In fact, at times, it's downright unbreathable. A brown cloud forms over the valley. Our eyes burn and we hibernate indoors. Monitoring the quality of our air in the valley falls on the shoulders of the Maricopa County Air Quality Department.
The Maricopa County Air Quality Department has 24 monitoring sites where we measure what's in the air. And then the EPA takes a look at our data from our monitoring stations and determines whether we're in compliance with the air quality standard.
Sadly, we are not in compliance when it comes to clean air.
We're failing miserably.
One of the biggest areas of concern is what is called PM10. That's shorthand for particulate matter at 10 microns. Those are little tiny particles that are almost invisible to the naked eye, but still manage to make breathing difficult, even when the skies are blue.
Sometimes the blue sky can be deceiving. It isn't always what you can see that's dangerous and harmful for you, but sometimes what you can't see. And when you consider particulate matter 10 microns or less in size, that's very small and we can't see it. The average human hair is 70 to 100 microns in size. So you take that down to what we're talking about is PM10, and that's 10 microns or less in size. It's very, very small.
In an effort to clean our air, the state legislature passed Senate Bill 1552 that required Maricopa County and Valley municipalities to study the dust problem and how they could stop the creation of dust within their jurisdiction.
That was the first catalyst for this dust control regulation tightening, if you will. And then following Senate Bill 1552 was the MAG 5% plan. That is a plan that, because we're in such a bad state when it comes to air quality, we had to submit a plan to the EPA. I like to refer to it as a diet. We have to lose 5% of our particulate pollution each year until we're back in attainment.
To help clean up our air, Maricopa County requires construction sites to have some sort of dust suppression. That's why you see water trucks watering down construction sites. In addition, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors recently passed some far-reaching regulations to help reduce particulates in the air.
Maricopa County has a multi-pronged approach to this particulate problem. One is we've ramped up our staff. We now have upwards of about 80 inspectors on the ground looking, noting any problems out in the field. We're also tightening up our dust control rules. Our Board of Supervisors approved some very tight rules when it comes to dust control. So that's everything from our permitted sites, construction activity, vacant lots, wood burning in your fireplace, off-highway vehicle, the ATV riding. All of those rules have tightened up quite significantly.
Included in those restrictions is the operation of any vehicle on unpaved public property without lawful authority and consent of the landowner. Not covered by the board, but included in Senate Bill 1552, is the prohibition of off-highway vehicle use in non-compliance areas during high pollution advisory days. Many cities and towns in Maricopa County are passing dust pollution regulations, including restricting leaf blowers, residential wood burning, controlling unpaved areas and limiting off-highway vehicle use in unincorporated areas. Those OHV restrictions affect everyone that uses an OHV. Whether you're heading out to your favorite hunting spot, that secret fishing hole, or just taking a recreational trail ride, dust is one of the side effects of motorized vehicles for outdoor recreation. Since 1990, off-highway vehicle use has gone up in Arizona by an incredible 347%. That is a huge increase in the use of machines like quads, off-road motorcycles, 4x4s, Jeeps, ATVs, UTVs, dirt bikes, sand rails, and other vehicles designed to be driven off-highway. The Arizona Game and Fish Department is working with the county to make sure that the hunter and angler access is still available, but we remind you to do your part by slowing down and staying on the roads and trails so you're not part of the problem. This isn't just a valley problem either. Yuma, Flagstaff, and Tucson have all experienced PM10 days and may be required to restrict off-highway vehicle use. Just like going to the gas station to put fuel in your machine, you now want to check ahead where you plan to ride. Rules are different for every management agency, from state trust land to the national forests to everything in between. A few minutes on the phone or a website now could save you a lot of time and money in the long run. For example, the Granite Mountain multi-use area in North Scottsdale has been closed to motorized use due to dust issues in that area. One site that you should check out is runningoutafair.com.
It's a place where you can go to learn about particulate pollution, why it's bad for us, and then better yet, what you can do to make a difference. We're all in this together, so we all have to take steps to do it. So whether that's giving up your car during the week, not driving in the dirt, anything you can do to help us keep the dust down, we're going to be on our way to attainment and to clean, healthy air to breathe.
The Heritage Fund has a long and proud history of recovering lands for wildlife. Stay tuned, and we'll take you to one of those Edens near Phoenix, Tavassi Marsh.
A walk down the trail at Tavassi Marsh is a step back in time. Since the renovation of the 120-acre former dairy farm to its original marsh-like state, the marsh has played host to a variety of creatures only rarely seen in the past. Willow flycatchers, river otter, and most recently the endangered Yuma clapper rail. Now common in the marsh are all species of waterfowl migrating through Arizona, as well as deer, coyote, javelina, great horned owls, white-faced ibis, green herons, and the great blue herons. Bald eagles may once again inhabit the old cottonwood snag just below the cliffs at the marsh's edge. This return of the marshland to its natural state came about through a 1990 agreement with the Phelps Dodge Corporation and the Arizona Game and Fish Department.
When Phelps Dodge had approached us, the possibility of managing this area for them, it's their property. When I looked at it then, we toured it in '89. It was a cow pasture. None of the wetlands was here. The potential was here. We took one look at it and said, Phelps Dodge, let's sit down and talk and see if we can come up with a mutually agreeable agreement for us to manage this, and that will benefit both Phelps Dodge and the wildlife resource and the people of Arizona.
Final design plans incorporated suggestions from several state and federal agencies. Invaluable insight and recommendations came from the general public as well, through a series of public meetings at the Cottonwood Town Hall. A plan was developed to restore the native biological diversity of the marsh and to create educational and recreational opportunities compatible with the sensitive nature of the marshland ecosystem. Hunting and vehicular traffic are restricted or limited. With interagency funding, 2 water level control structures were built in ditches dug years ago to drain the marsh and create the dairy's pasture. As the pasture returned to its natural marshland state, wildlife returned to its former habitat. Through an Arizona Game and Fish Department heritage-funded grant to the National Park Service, this wheelchair-accessible trail and deck was constructed for wildlife viewing across the marsh. This viewing deck provides a beautiful, tranquil setting for anyone wishing to watch wildlife in its natural habitat.
Oh yes, there he is.
In 1993, the U.S. Secretary of the Interior recognized the Tavassi Marsh project as the nation's most significant habitat enhancement for that year, the first such award for Arizona, and only the second for the entire Southwest. The marsh is located between Tuzigoot National Monument, a large pre-Columbian ruin that dates from about 1300 AD, and Dead Horse Ranch State Park near Cottonwood.
The recovery effort at Tavassi Marsh has been fantastic, and we always encourage you to enjoy outdoor Arizona. If you'd like any more information about anything you saw on the show tonight, go to our website at azgfd.gov. On a side note, this is our last show for this season, and we thank you for your continued support. On behalf of producers Carol Lind and Gary Schaefer, I'm your host, Jim Harkin. We'll see you next year. Welcome to another edition of Arizona Wildlife Views. I'm your host, Jim Harkin. But first, Arizona's bighorn sheep population since the early shoot, I had it. Doggone it.
You had it too.
Wow, that was stupid. Did Chuck sweat this bed? Oh, we're the boys of the chorus. We hope you like our show. We know you're rooting for us, but now we've got to go.